Right, thanks for listening to this, the Shrimps Trust podcast. As usual, joining Joel from the Trust, we have our usual boardroom representative, who's a legend in his own home. I always introduce him as our chief executive, as it seems to make him chuckle. As has been calling him, what were you calling him?
Chairman, I call him.
Chairman, yeah. There you go. And it's Sir Roderick of Taylor. Thank you for coming on, Rod.
David, yeah, guys.
And also we have a gentleman who, he's already spoken already, but he's become, I call him a fixture and fitting at the Mazuma. Midfielder who's played, one of the very few people in recent Morecambe history who's actually played under 4 different managers for the Shrimps, although one of them was a temporary one. But he was a vital cog in our promotion from League 2 last season. Thanks for coming second time back on, Aaron Wildig.
Evening, gents. Thanks for having me.
And we've got to start by talking about Wycombe Wanderers. We had an absolute belter of a game down there, lost 4-3 when perhaps should have got something that day. And apparently it was the pitch's fault we won, Joel.
Yeah, apparently so. I was actually tuning into a bit of Ivory Coast versus Egypt in the African Cup of Nations, and then that was a pretty poor pitch. I was wondering what Gareth Ainsworth was making of that one, but it was a bizarre statement to make from him, considering they're not exactly a tiki-taka side, really, are they? It might affect that. But anyway, in terms of our performance, it was a brilliant performance. You know, I think going behind so early on before the game really kind of settled, just getting hit like that was a bit of a blow, but it didn't really seem to knock the team at all, to be honest. Like, after we kind of get our composure, and then I think we pretty much dominated the rest of the half. We have a couple of really good chances that didn't quite go in there. I think a couple of blocks from my younger, and then obviously from one of those to get the corner, lovely delivery, running around down here, and then get back into it. And again, a bit of a sucker, not quite a sucker punch because we'll come back from it, but a bit of a blow with that goal after half time. That nice volley, kind of a bit out of nowhere, a little bit, just a set piece that loops up. And then again, like we didn't really we didn't fold at all from that. We just kept on going and going. And at the end of the day, I think they were a little bit lucky to get their 2 goals. If you kind of take the balance of play, I think we thoroughly deserved the win. I know Tom Collins from Shrimps Online, he was making the point that it's probably one of our best and most complete ever performances in the EFL, really. We've gone against one of the top sides in the league, and we've really bossed them and got a very, very deserved victory.
I think it's a great point in the fact that it was a great performance, but I felt it was only 1 or maybe 2 notches above the performance against Wigan, Aaron, when we played really well and got nothing, but we actually got what we deserved on Saturday.
No, definitely. I think, like you said there wasn't really loss of confidence, if you like, after the Wigan game, because we knew we played well on the night. It was a bit of misfortune for me. It was a Stonewall penalty. I'm still not sure how the ref didn't give that. And I think the disappointing thing on the Wigan game was just the goal before half time. If you took it back and you said to any team, 44 minutes on the clock, and even though we're saying it on the pitch, look, don't concede 2 minutes, you'd see it out, wouldn't you? But to concede so late in the half just takes your wind out of your sail a little bit coming in at the break. But no, we thought we were doing all right. They're obviously building up pressure at the start of the second half, and I don't know what you think, but the goal seemed to be a bit of a push in the back. Then it just loops in, and you think, but no, we reacted well, and yeah, for me, should have took something from that game as well.
But the Wycombe game, maybe we did learn something from the Wigan game, which was don't panic, because we always looked pretty confident. Before we came on air, we mentioned, Jonah had possibly one of his most dynamic games. And I know you and the gaffer had identified Joe Jacobson as a weakness. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was more of a weakness. It's more of that I fancied Jonah to get at him at every opportunity, and obviously the gaffer had seen that as well and mentioned it. But it sounds mad. They scored after 1 minute 30 seconds, but even in the minute before that, we actually started the game okay. I think we got a couple of crosses into the box and that, and I was on the pitch. You start trying to analyse where's the space in the game and all stuff like that, and I was thinking, we might get a bit of joy here today. But then they go and score, and it's a bit like, here we go. But no, great reaction. I think we're getting that togetherness, that character within the squad now. And hopefully it seems to, I don't know what you think, but it seems to be that we're better off shooting towards the away end second half. Because that's the second game now, Doncaster in that game where we've been like losing and come back. So yeah, we might have to change around.
It's strange. I read the stat and I haven't checked it. Perhaps Joel will know, but somebody said we've actually scored 1 goal in our end since the first week in October or something.
Yeah, I believe it might have been
Surely
James. I think it might have been James Lambert's to give him a bit of credit for that. But yeah, I think it's Anthony O'Connor's the only player who scored in that end in something like
mad,
2 or
isn't
3
it?
months.
Yeah.
That doesn't include the FA Cup because Azza scored in that end.
Oh yeah, my screamer in the cup. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Can I just say that wasn't a screamer? That was a lovely finish. That was a lovely finish.
Little tap in at the back post. That's my been my bread and butter over the last 12 months. Then
you're underselling that. That was a beautiful volley. That.
To be fair, I think it was all in the run. To be fair, coming straight off the touchline when nobody's quite.
Yeah, it went bad for a first touch actually. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it fouled to me within like 30 seconds of coming on.
Yeah, so, I thought you looked knackered after that. We should have subbed you.
It's probably about right.
So
we've had two really stern tests, David. The last 2 games, haven't we? You know, the Wigan game and then the Wycombe game, and we've shown a really tough side to the squad. Really, you know, coming back, I wasn't there Saturday. I couldn't even get into the car. I'd done my knee in, and I couldn't even flex my leg to get into the car. So I watched it on iFollow. Some strange decisions again went against us. And you sometimes think, you know, if we didn't have bad luck, we wouldn't have any luck at all. There was a few strange ones, but you know, you go 1-0 down so early in the game, you think, oh my God, you know, here we go. And we just showed that really strong underbelly and got on with it. Like, it's a great performance. You know, you mentioned Wycombe away early on. That first half there was just magnificent.
Could have been 3 or 4, couldn't it?
Oh, standout performance that. So yeah, we're on the right lines, aren't we? I think we're on the right lines.
I think you can't. I mean, maybe I'm overstating it, but there's been a definite different look about 3 of the back 5 since Jacob and Trevor have come in, and I know that, you know, sometimes new signings can be unsettling, but sometimes they can have a positive effect, Aaron. And they look to have had a really good, you know, there seems to be a spark back.
Yeah, I don't. It's difficult speaking as a player on those sort of things when you're within the squad. But no, I think obviously Trevor brings that experience, calm head. I think some of his technique, you could probably put him in the centre of the pitch and start spraying balls from there with his left and right foot, because he's technically really, really good. And to be fair, Jacob, fairly quiet lad, but he's just come in and gone about his business. Been excellent, to be honest, hasn't he? He's stepped out the back while first game against Tottenham. I think it showed what he was all about. And then sometimes you think the Tottenham game, like, it's hard to judge players because it's a different game, but he's come into League One and he's excelled in the games he's played. So hopefully, long may that continue towards the end of the season and we keep picking up results.
Yeah, very much so. So going back again to the Wycombe game, they played pretty much like we expected, Joel. And like I say, the complaints about the pitch is a bit ludicrous, really, because obviously they weren't really playing it into Akinfenwa's feet at any point, were they?
No, that's the thing. I think I posted online after the game, like, you know, if it was a team who did like to kind of knock it around a bit, then I can kind of half see why there might be a little bit of a cause of complaint, but not really. But yeah, considering that, you know, their tactic is to go long, and I've got absolutely no problem with that. You know, look how we got promoted last season. We were quite direct, so I've got absolutely no problem with their tactics at all. But, you know, to bring it up as an excuse with regarding the pitch, you know, that's just it's a bit ridiculous, really. And you look at some of the other pitches around around this league at the moment. Ours looks kind of medium level at the minute. Like I think it was MK Dons. Their pitch has really turned up a bit. Stadium of Light, Sunderland, and they've got way more resources than us. And I was watching Fleetwood last night, and their pitch is cutting up now. So it happens at this time of year. You know, it's better. It's a lot better than years gone by. But ultimately, you know, we're in it. You know, because of the country we're in, it rains, and that happens a bit over the winter and autumn. And the pitches do get affected unless you're in the Premier League, essentially.
Well, we played. I mean, we played a lot more football than they did on it. It didn't seem to affect us, Aaron, did it?
No, I don't like the pitches this time of the year. Like Joel was saying, I've seen Fleetwood last night. I think it was Burton Albion was the other game I seen. Look way worse than our pitches. Yeah. And the pitches, I always think the pitch is a bit of a weird excuse. It's because it's the same for both teams, isn't it? So
it is, yeah.
So no, you've got to adapt. You're going to get bad pitches at this time of year in the lower leagues of English football. So yeah, I don't think you really talk about it much as a player kind of thing. You just kind of get on with it, and as long as unless you shim one out of play, then you can point at the pitch. Other than that,
it's not Main Road or the baseball ground in the 70s, for God's sake.
Oh God, yeah.
Where there wouldn't be a blade of grass right now. No. So yeah, I'm with Aaron. I think it's easy making excuses like that. We're in the northwest. It is January. Grass doesn't grow unless you've got loads of lighting on there every day of the week to repair it. It's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think, like I say, it was I'm surprised at Gareth because he's a pretty reasonable bloke, and using that as an excuse, maybe it was a bit too soon after the game to actually analyse it. I don't know. I'll let him off because he's a decent northern lad and he's always very friendly. So, and he always comes out with some nice things about us. Always has when Jim was in charge, etc. So I'm not going to complain too much. But final thing on the Wickham game, just the fantastic battle between Cole Stockton and Ryan Tafazolli, which Ryan finally got a booking for, I think it was his 5th foul, which for me, the first one, which was right on the touchline, where Cole turned him and then nipped it past him and he just literally barged him and then pulled his shirt. That should have been, for me, that was a yellow straight away with the rules, because that was a professional foul, and he let that go. And then, unfortunately, I think he after that, he by 10 minutes in the second half, he'd lost control for me. But that's what I think. Rod?
Totally agree with you. I think there was Cole Stockton does take a lot of stick. You see, week in, week out. Should he get a little bit more protection? Yeah, possibly. And you look at stuff, you can watch Premiership football any night of the week, and you'll see that sort of thing, being punished. I thought, that could have been a game changer. We came through it on Saturday, came through it in style. But that could have been an early yellow, and then later on he'd have been away, wouldn't he?
He's too honest, the big man, isn't he? He's too honest.
Yeah, he is.
He backs his strength too much to where sometimes you should probably just go over and take the foul, but because he's so strong, he's just too honest.
Yeah, I think. Go on. Is that a good trait though, Aaron?
No, it is. It is a good trait, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's all about the character, but he could probably buy one or two more.
Yeah, no, it is a good trait. You're right, but it's just like you say, a couple of times he's that. It's a blatant foul, whereas you know what it's like. You stay up, the ref doesn't give it, does it? You kind of go over, the ref will give it.
Which is it's a credit to Cole as a person.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Cole does very, very well is when he gets a foul given against him, never complains. He just walks away smiling.
Yeah.
And you just think, well, was it a foul or not, Cole? Because he doesn't even complain. Now, you and I know, all four of us have watched football for donkey's years. You played it in our division. And last year, when there was only us doing the commentary, I think it was Cheltenham at home. And Cheltenham at home, their centre half headed it into the stand and went, our ball! And I'm like, you're a bloody idiot, mate. I'm sorry. He headed it into the stand and they went, our ball. And it was like, what a footballer's really that stupid? And Cole's the complete antithesis of that. If he's given a foul away because he's been over, he just goes, and walks off. And that's got to be a good thing because he's honest.
Either that or he's just too tired to complain.
Yeah.
I think if I was Cole, I'd lose my head. I mean, I'm in the stands and my head's gone. I'm not even the one getting fouled. But
I admit, my wife was stood next to me, and Saturday on the third or fourth foul from Tafazolli, I was like, "Get your bloody card out!" and screaming it because it was like, "Come on, that's enough now." And then, of course, the first card was Greg Lee for a high foot when he was generally going for the ball, and their lad put his head down.
Yeah,
it's like, well, and we get the first yellow card. So that's the massive chip on my shoulder, and we'll move on. But
it does, David. It does give Peter Day a lot to shout about, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and it keeps us entertained, doesn't it? When all said and done. But anyway, we move on. So, Aaron, again, like I said in the intro, you've played under 4 different Morecambe managers.
I was trying to think the fourth. Is that Baz and Kev?
Yeah, Baz and Kev, one
right,
game.
Okay, yeah.
So, well, actually, 5, because they were a management team, weren't they? So, so obviously Jim Bentley, and then obviously the short-lived Baz and Kev reign, which was 100% successful, best record that will never be beaten. And then Mr. Adams, and then obviously now we've got Robbo. So, from our point of view, you've played under 4. We've had varying different fortunes, but you find yourself back in League One when you came to us originally as Player of the Season when you were at Shrewsbury in League One. So there's got to be some differences in when you've gone back to when you left it.
What, as in League One? As in what? Basically, what I think of League One.
Yeah,
I think just the top 10 clubs, isn't it? When I think that calibre of club, especially this season, I think you had Sheffield United and teams like that in when I was playing for Shrewsbury in it. But this year you seem to have 4 or 5 more than your 4 and 5 teams. For example, you've got from Charlton to Ipswich, Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday. You've got so many big clubs in there. I think that's the major difference, is it? Resources. I'm sure the chairman would say as well, wage structure to some of these clubs. I think we played Wigan the other night, and I think there are a fair few players on what we get, what they get a week and what we get in about 4 or 5 months. So, yeah. So that's what you're competing with. But look, it's a challenge, and I think we, as a club and as players, we're under no illusions it was going to be difficult. But I think you're starting to see now, like the chairman said earlier, we're starting to get that togetherness, and hopefully we're building something now into these final 19 games. So, yeah, I think in terms of from the difference between now and then, it's probably more difficult, if I'm being honest, in just this season alone, just because of the size of the clubs. And
also, as you've touched on there, I think there's probably 10 clubs where they've got people sat on the bench who would no doubt probably in the starting position for us, because the depth of squad, particularly places like, the reason I'm saying this is because MK Dons came to us and obviously beat us 4-0, and Mo Issa hadn't played for a month because they had Waters on loan, and then he got injured and they brought Mo Issa in alongside. And I just looked at their bench that day and I was thinking, blimey. And this lot are right, they were 7th or 8th at the time. And the depth of the squad is amazing. You've got some really, really good footballers.
No, exactly. You've only got to look, it's January at the minute, you've only got to look at some of the signings that Sunderland are making, that Wigan are making, that Ipswich or whoever else are making. They're signing players that have played Premier League games in the last 2 or 3 years and stuff like that. So I think that's the level we're competing at. But look, we're up for the challenge, and that's what it's about, playing for a club like Morecambe, isn't it? Or trying to overachieve and stuff like that. So no, it's exciting, really.
And from a personal point of view, obviously you had a great season when we got promoted. And obviously, I'll go back to that winning goal against Salford, which was it always tickles me because obviously the ground was empty, but there was myself and a colleague doing the commentary, and it tickled us because you and I have to mention it because you sort of like, it was going wide and you just got a foot on it, and then all you did was like wave, follow me, and that was a fantastic evening. That, and to score the winner, two in injury time, that was a fantastic evening, and that summed up the season, really, didn't it?
Yeah, that was some night, actually. It's just such a shame there weren't fans there, because you score those 2 late goals, that have been on the pitch, or I would have been in the stand, one or the other. So it's just a shame. That's the only thing. But no, that was the character last year we had, and yeah, that was a good night. But no, it was a top season. Really, really enjoyed it. But just the shame is you look back and you watch clips of it, and a lot of it's with no fans there, so it takes a little bit of the edge off it. But it was luckily to get them back in for the playoffs, and that was in the end so much more enjoyable with them there. Yeah,
true. And looking at your form this season, you've been shall we say unlucky with injuries. And I know you were, last time you came on, you were like, I'm hoping to stay injury free, but you've found a bit of form and you've managed to keep fit in recent weeks, and that's seen an upturn in your fortunes and the team's.
Yeah, no, like you say, coming off the back of last season, which is, to be honest, my best season in football in terms of goals and return and playing. I think I think I started every game I was available for, which is almost 40, 50 games or something like that. I don't know. So I was trying to hit the ground running, to be honest. New manager. I thought I'd done quite well in pre-season. I think I was in line to probably start the first day. Well, definitely in contention anyway. And to pull a hamstring before the start of the season, and then to do an ankle, then to get ill with a flare-up of I've got like a stomach condition, then to come back and do an ankle on a set play session in the afternoon, which is basically unopposed. You just start thinking, oh, what's going on here? You start thinking you're cursed, but no, look, I'm under no illusions. We've got some really good players. It's been difficult to get a game, especially I think we're well stocked in the middle of the pitch. So it's just about, I'm quite experienced in the squad now. It's being a good character around the place, trying to help others, trying to bring an influence to the team now. And like you said, I've got in at the minute, and hopefully I can stay there. But I think you probably saw towards the end, that third game in the week for the first time in about 6-7 months, I was absolutely knackered that last 15, 20 minutes on Saturday. I thought I was going to spew actually at one point. I was that knackered. But I just think it's all about getting rhythm now, hopefully. It's quite difficult to just pick up rhythm out of nowhere. So I think that's probably the key now, to try and get some rhythm.
But like I say, you've appeared back in, and is it a coincidence that our form has picked up? Because I always think you do. Your job is to knit things together and make the odd run forward. You did that against Wigan. You're right; it was a penalty. We spoke about that last week, didn't we, Joel?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I'm no idea how the ref missed that. Looking back at it, but just one of those. But yeah,
and we haven't had a right lot of luck, as Rod says. But so yeah, looking at that, I'll hand you over now to somebody who's probably got a lot more better questions, Joel.
Yeah. So obviously, one of the key things that's kind of happened, I think you alluded to already. Obviously, the goal scoring. I was looking back over your games under Derek, and the first one was the Macclesfield goal, and that one, I think it's a nice little turn. It's straight. It's a little touch and turn.
Big deflection, wasn't it? If I remember.
Yeah.
Big deflection.
Although
yeah,
I think the turn, straight out of the Cole Stockton playbook. I think getting the ball in the box and turning. But even though it comes, but like in terms of the goal itself, like you say, I think there was a deflection with the goalkeeper going the wrong way. But like a couple of games after, you score 2 great volleys in 2 games, and then next season you get double digits. So even though it was kind of it took a deflection, what was that goal against Macclesfield? Almost a bit of like a kind of lift off.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think in Derek's first game in charge, we played a JPT game on the Tuesday night. I think I scored in that late on, and it was kind of just the setup he played, similar to this year, really, but slightly different. In basically last year and under Derek, I've just had a license to just break lines every time we attacked. Basically, it was every time the ball went into Cole, he liked me breaking lines and getting in the box, and I just think that was something that worked for me. I kind of got to know Jono's game and Carlos's game and Cole's game on how they would get when they would make crosses, and when the ball would be set back to a fullback where Cooney or Calv would want to cross it, and because I normally play on the left of a 3. So it was just like getting to know people's games and when to make runs into the box. And obviously that's something I'd like to bring this year. I've managed to score the one cup goal. I've missed a good few chances, to be honest. I missed a good one at Sunderland, and I missed a fairly decent one against Crewe as well. So look, I know I can get in the box. Just about trying to. I think it's a bit more disciplined this year. I can't be as gun ho with my runs, and it's more about picking and choosing when I can go. But no, I'd like to think I could still nick a few, definitely.
So I think it's interesting what you mentioned about that. What could have put you in a position to be able to score those goals, knowing the games of all your teammates. And I think in these last few games, I think what you can probably point out as well is we are starting to get a little bit more of a settled lineup. That front 3 of a younger Stockton and who is getting pretty settled, and then you yourself in midfield. I think it's since half time against barring the Spurs game, obviously, when things did have to change a bit because of the quality of opponent. But in the league, it's been you, Toons, and Shane McLaughlin. So is kind of finding that consistency of teammate and learning their game kind of a big part of that, all that?
Yeah, I think it obviously helps when when someone's going to cross a ball, for example. I knew Johnny wanted to get half a yard and cross a ball and stuff. So I think all that does help from a midfielder trying to make runs. But like you said, you're starting to get to know players more. I've only played I think I've played 6 or 7 games or something this year now in the league, or started anyway. So no, it's still kind of new for me, but like I'm an experienced player. I've watched the lads all season and I know what their strengths and that's are. So, like I said, I'm probably just not as gung-ho this year in terms of my run. It's more about picking and choosing and analysing where our other midfielders are on the pitch. For example, like Toombs and Shane, like where are they on the pitch before I make my run and stuff. So, and I think that comes with the detail of the coaching from the gaffer, to be honest. His detail's really in depth, what he wants from players and stuff like that. So I don't think it's more just making the box every time, whereas I would last year. So I think that's, like you say, key.
So I think you've kind of touched upon, obviously, the kind of detail that the manager gives you at the moment. I think that's something that I think a couple of other players have mentioned in interviews. But so kind of going on under all three managers that you've played for at Morecambe, obviously, I know there's only so much you can kind of say. But what are the kind of main differences between Jim, Derek, and obviously now Robbo?
There's a lot of differences. The current manager's detail is incredible, really. I think Charlie told me to do this tomorrow night, but I was like, I can't, because I take the 15s, 16s and more. Can I help out there with the coaching? So he's been great in terms of like looking at how he works and all stuff like that. Because his details, like, open. If you could sit and talk to him for an hour about football, like, it would just open your mind to the detail he goes into. Derek was more of a kind of give you responsibility in terms of like go out and do it and put trust into. Well, I think we played like a consistent 11 quite a lot. You could probably pick his team and before the game, and then we just built momentum and stuff like that. But he was probably a bit more distant from the group. Training was very similar throughout the week, throughout the season, really. And we just do little tactical stuff, 10, 15 minutes here and there. But you read a lot of stuff about we were so well drilled and all stuff like that. But in terms of actually minutes of doing it, we wouldn't actually do that much stuff on our shape and all stuff. It was just how it happened in the game and all things like that, which was probably quite strange hearing that. And then Jim was just a really, really good man manager. You always wanted to do your best for him. Really great guy. And similar to, they're all similar in a lot of ways, to be honest. But again, very different as well.
Oh, it's really interesting, especially about that point about Derek, and because you I kind of have this kind of image of a kind of Roy Hodgson style, like everybody stand around in the 4 foot.
No, not at all. It was like my dad would be like, "Oh, do you do shaping that all the time?" When he was watching it on the iPhone, and I was like, "No, to be honest, we do like 10 minutes on a Thursday, maybe 10 minutes on a Friday, and the rest of the week would be pretty much the same throughout." To be honest, the odd game here and there, if we were playing the top of the league, we might do a little bit extra. But in terms of like the actual detail of the way we were setting up, it wasn't as much information as you think. It was more just a trust of the players and people thought we'd sit off a lot, and we did sit off a lot. But there'd be certain games where we'd be like, right, now we go and press, and that was like the Tranmere game in the playoffs. First leg, his instructions were to sit off, soak it up, hit them on the counter attack. But then first half of the second leg, it was like, right, we're pressing them from minute one. And we went and got on the front foot, got an early goal and all stuff like that. So I think we adapted quite a lot to different situations, and I think that was his management style.
Yeah. So going back to going back to last season, was there a particular point in the season where you kind of thought, "Oh, you know what, this actually might happen with the promotion and everything"?
If you speak to Big Toombs will tell you he walked in the last week of pre-season was like, "We'll get a medal this year." So if you speak to Big Toombs, he'll tell you then. But for me, what was the point for me? I don't know, really, to be honest. I think once you start coming up to that Christmas period, you play Grimsby, I think it was Boxing Day, and it was a windy game, and we were backs against the wall first half, but we were so comfortable. We just knew we'd win the game. Like, we were 1-0 down, I think, at half time, and the lads were just like, we'll win. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no stress, which was quite a different environment to what I've been in over the years I've been at Morecambe. So it was just like, we'll win. And there was that belief within the squad, and I think as you just saw, there was no stress. Like, Harrogate away, you'd watch the game and you'd be like, we got battered, but we knew we'd win the game. Like, we scored after like a minute, I think it was, but we were comfortable within the game. And I don't know, there was just a belief. I think the one regret is we didn't win the league. I honestly believe that if without a few red cards, we'd have won the league, I think. What did we finish? 4 points off the top, was it, in the end?
Yeah, it was about 4 points off top. So yeah, I think there probably is quite a good case for those. I mean, a lot of the red cards, they weren't horror challenges. It was just little bitty stuff, really, wasn't it?
And they're all in the big games. Newport, was it? Tranmere, Bolton, which was one, and you just think, and they were good. Like I think the Newport one was it 1-1 at the time or something like that, and then
I think the first, I mean, the one at their place, it was a kind of second yellow to give away a penalty. So I remember not feeling too aggrieved about that one. But the one at our place when Lavelle got sent off for
that was 1-1
challenge,
and Adam Phillips and Mr. Penn as well. So.
That was
yeah. So, but no, it was Cambridge as well. Gibbo got sent off when the ball was going out for a throw. It was like last man. You just think, but before that Cambridge game, actually, Derek hadn't really said anything. He just was like, "Look, we're going for just keep going, just keep going." But before that, he pulled us on the Friday. He was like, "I want to win the league," and actually, it turned out that we went and lost like 2 or 3 games on the bounce. And it was like, "Oh, you shouldn't have never said anything." But it was like the first time he'd actually mentioned, "Oh, look, I want to win the league. Like we can win the league." And it was before that. I think it was before the Cambridge game, and it was like, "Oh, you've cursed us. We've just gone and lost 2 or 3, but then obviously built it back up." So that was a strange one, actually.
I suppose like it's interesting you speak about that kind of that feeling of kind of confidence, because I think where it really became apparent. I mean, I think it was apparent for a while, but I think where it really shone through was those last couple of games of the season where we had loads of injuries. I think you were injured for a few games. I think Carlos missed 1 or 2, and it was like, oh my god, it's kind of crying, and Sully was missing as well, I think. So all of a sudden we had this injury crisis, and we were quite weakened, especially going forward. But I remember just the wins were so kind of calm and so non-fuss.
I just think it's I think momentum is massive in football. You look at like, I don't know, Blackburn, for example, in the Championship, like the way you start the season so well and then you build a momentum. I watched their game against Middlesbrough the other night and there was nothing in the game. If anything, Middlesbrough were building up momentum, but then Blackburn just scored. It's just a momentum thing. You just the ball just goes in the net, and I think that was like how it was going for us last year. And like you said, if a couple of people got injured, the structure of the team was still there, and someone would just nip in with a goal. And I don't really know, to be honest. Like people like McAlinden come in after not playing for ages and was excellent and massive player for us in the end. So it's just a team spirit, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a funny thing. It's such a hard thing to kind of put your finger on, really. Obviously, going into this season now, like there's been such a big turnover in the squad, and I think you and Freddie Price and Andre De Silva Mendes and Sam as well, Sam Lavelle, were the only contracted players going into this season. So obviously you've kind of seen all these new faces come in, and obviously you're a player who's been at the club. I think you're the longest serving player now. So what's that been like, having all the new faces coming and kind of helping them blend into the building?
No, definitely. It's always a weird one, isn't it, in football, especially League 2, League 1, turnover of players. It's like passing ships out at sea. Someone comes in and then they just leave. And it's like, when do you see them again? Like, to keep in touch and all stuff like that. And I've always found that quite weird, actually, in football. But no, I think, like you say, I'm an experienced player now. I've been at the club. I know, like, people behind the scenes and all that. And I like to think that that's probably one of the strengths I've brought to the team in the last few weeks is a bit more like talking, for example, on the pitch, or well done here, or like just little information on the pitch and stuff. And I think I'm probably one of the louder ones in the changing room now. So I'd like to think I'd bring people together, hopefully. And yeah, there's a good group of lads. It's been difficult actually with COVID. You'd be split across 3 changing rooms at the uni and stuff. And although you wouldn't think that's a big deal, that's kind of where you socialise the most in the changing room, isn't it? So being back at the ground now and being in a changing room with more players and socialising more, having breakfast, lunch together and all stuff like that, I think that's definitely contributed over the last month or so. So that's I think that's key as well, getting that team spirit to having a successful team.
Yeah, I think obviously the manager, I think he mentioned that after the Wycombe game, I think, actually, in his interview. So is that kind of been because I think it almost seems like with that and then Jacob and Trevor coming in, the comeback against Doncaster, putting a good shift against Spurs, it seems kind of like a lot of things have kind of married up in the past few weeks, and also we've kind of hit upon a good kind of consistent lineup. So do you think you are kind of feeling that those kind of positive changes really start to take place now? Because, you know, look at the past couple of performances against Wycombe and Wigan, they've been great.
I think in terms of like the togetherness in the squad, you can feel it getting better and all that all the time. It's not going to happen overnight, is it? When you put 20 new lads in the team and not everyone's going to get on and all stuff like that. So you get those differences where people make friends in different groups and that. But you know, as you get to know each other over the course of the season, you do get that togetherness more. But no, I don't think as footballers in terms you don't look too much into that, do you? And you don't look too much. You kind of. It's not looking after yourself, but when you're going into a game, you're trying to concentrate on what your job is and what you can bring to the team, kind of thing, rather than or everything else. So no, there's definitely parts to that though.
And just finally, for a trashy one, favourite goal from last season? I think there's probably one or two it might be, but
favourite goal, probably the Tranmere one, to be honest. Turns out to be the winner in the playoffs on TV. Fans are back in the ground. Real big game. So probably that one. But obviously, if the fans were there, I'd probably sway towards the Salford one, because that's just to score in the 95th and the 96th would have been a party in the ground.
well, it was a party in the press box with
was
Freez, yeah, as we all heard over rifle. But yeah, I did enjoy that Tranmere one as well. I think the fact that it just took ages to go in was like...
Yeah, it was slightly behind me, to be fair. I had one similar the other day when Seamus put it in, and I managed to scoop it out to Jonah, but the touch was slightly behind me, so I just managed to dig it out. But as soon as it left my foot, I felt like it was going to go in. I started peeling away straight away. So
yeah,
placement, not power.
Yeah, I think you said that if you kind of wrong foot the goalkeeper, get his weight going the other way, then you don't need that much power a lot of the time, do you?
No, exactly. So, but I quite liked a few headers last year. Never scored an header, and then I ended up scoring 4 or 5 headers last year. So there was one where it scummed up in the last minute as well, which I wanted the header to go in, but come back for a volley. Yeah, I was gutted the header didn't go in, to be honest.
But Kelvin Miller was gutted because he missed out on the assist from that, didn't he?
Oh yeah. No, you forget about that actually. Stuff like little things like that. Yeah.
I've actually got one more question as well before I come to Rod. And that's something that we spoke about in the preamble, and that's are you Ryan Mack was on last week, and he was quite happy that he was taking your mantle as the most treated injured player this season on the pitch, because when we got promoted last season, as you said, it was probably more noticeable because there was no crowd there and I was doing the commentary, but every time Glenn said to me, "Who's down injured?" I'd say Aaron Wildig.
No, I seem to get Fardy a few appearances. Like I said, I just like to keep him fit, keep him ticking over on the jog and that, and catch up with a few latest scores around the country when he comes on, and whatever else he's up to. But no, I don't know. I've always seemed to. I just seem to get clattered. Whether I just nick a footing because I'm a bit slow getting there, and then I end up getting caught, or what, I don't know. But I seem to pick up a few. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all right. You're second behind Ryan now. He's taking it and he's running with it. So what you say to me is when you're on the far side of the field and Farney gets there and he goes, "What's up?" You go, "Nothing. What's score?"
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Right, Rod, we'll come to you now. Obviously, my first question was going to be, and it's something that's already been alluded to, there's been a change in the sort of the training arrangements. What's gone on there? Because it's not, when nobody knows what's gone on.
I don't. I do actually. The unfortunate thing is the grassed areas of the uni just aren't up to standard. Certainly not at the moment. They're okay early in the either pre-season or early in the season, but as Aaron will testify, they're not. Right now, they're not fit for purpose, and we don't want to be on Astro all the time. The gaffer doesn't want to be on Astro all the time. A lot of the boys don't. And also, if you're trying to attract players to the football club, and AstroTurf's mentioned, you do get a reaction without a shadow of a doubt. So we've looked at some options, and we're going to be based at Lancaster Morecambe College, certainly for the foreseeable. There's still a dialogue with the university. But there's a fair bit of work going on over the past 2 weeks down at the college. I was down there yesterday. It was being verti-drained. It looks a lot better. That said, after we've been training on it for 6 weeks, who knows? It's going to have an impact, isn't it? But that's the reason why. And I think there are other benefits as well. And Aaron alluded to this, that boys are eating together. They're coming to the club. They're having some breakfast. They're coming back for lunch. They're in an area rather than being scattered all over the place. And from a bonding as a unit point of view, there's got to be positives in that. So, yeah, that's where we are. It's purely the state of the grass pitches.
It's always been known that we haven't had a particular lot of rain, but they do not drain very well at the uni. They weren't set up properly when they built it in the 60s, and it's known. When I used to play football in the 1970s, when I was still playing. They were absolutely awful. One half of every single pitch was completely and utterly dreadful, absolutely dreadful. So it doesn't come as any surprise to anybody who's ever played up there. But thanks for that update.
David, there was a pre-season, the first day back for pre-season training. Sammy Mack was manager, and there was a deluge that day, and they couldn't do anything. It was underwater.
Yeah.
So that's the back pitch, obviously.
Yeah. It's well known. But anyway, there you go. So
can I just say, David, the rest of the facilities, though, I think we've got to be clear on this.
Oh yeah, they're spot on.
There are some great facilities up there, and there's been no fallout. It's just that we've got to make sure we're looking after the lads properly. We don't want to take risks that shouldn't be taken, and you know, we'll assess it as we go ahead. But right now, I think we're in a better place. I don't know, Aaron, do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously the pitches are the big one, isn't it? I know a lot of the lads don't like training on that Astro, tendonitis and things like that start playing a part over a course of time. But no, like you say, the facilities at the university were first class, but at the ground you get that togetherness, you get that control. The one negative is the manager started taking the gym sessions at the ground because he's got more control of it, and they are not pretty, let me tell you.
I knew there'd be a downside somewhere.
Yeah, he started doing these circuits, and let's just say I can barely lift my arms today.
Well, something's working. Long may it continue. So, Rod, we've sold. I think we've sold over 1,000 tickets for Aki on Saturday. Is that right?
You have indeed, yeah. Excellent. We asked for some more terrace tickets today. We've got access to, I think, another 400. So, because they were sold out, there was only seated areas left as of this morning. But we've got more terracing area now. So yeah, great support, and you know, the support this season, it really is palpable. You know, just lifted, going from a situation where we'd nobody in the ground for long periods of time to this, it's just fabulous. And you know, long may it continue. I think there's been great support and creating a really brilliant atmosphere.
And at that point, obviously, I'll lead into the club statement brought out for, shall we say, use of inappropriate songs, which some people are claiming it's a bit overkill. Other people are saying it's quite right. You've got to be, I know there's people saying, it's the woke brigade and stuff like that. But I think, you know, yes, people are saying it is part of football. But as somebody's quite rightly pointed out, so was racism and throwing bananas years ago. And that was part of football and it was accepted. It's always good to try and enforce a bit of change, I think, isn't it?
Well, it's been said to us this. We got a lot of complaints over the weekend, especially quite a number of parents who were there with younger kids and kids asking questions and all the rest of it. Yeah. And others have said to us, well, why are we different? You hear it at loads of ground. Well, that doesn't make it right, does it?
No.
You may hear it at loads of ground. You may hear it on the TV. That doesn't make it right. And we are Morecambe. And if we want to make a stance on it, then we'll make a stance on it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, that's why I wanted to mention it, because I think it's a positive change, hopefully.
I would hope, though, there's going to be some peer pressure because, somebody said, why haven't we gone in there and ejected them from the ground? Well, that would be very difficult on a match day to go into the Barter card stand and round 20, 30 youths up and eject them. That's not the way to do things. The way to do it is through education, through inclusion, through talking to them. And I would hope other people in that area and around them will bring the pressure to bear. We want these people on board. They've played a massive part this year with the atmosphere. Just let's get it right. We've got a great reputation as a community, family orientated club. We've worked on that for donkey's years now, and we want to maintain that. It means something.
I think you're right, and I think it's quite enlightened that the club are saying they're giving the people who are singing this kind of thing, they're giving them the opportunity to change, and I think that's quite fair.
Good.
I mean, the one thing, obviously, there was quite a few, and I don't know how old they were, but they were arguing, well, it happens all over at football, and you only have to look at last weekend, and Aston Villa score, Matty Cash gets coins and all sorts of stuff and bottles thrown at him, and Anton Rudiger for Chelsea gets nail clippers and something else thrown at him. Well, that's happening all over the Premiership. It doesn't mean everybody has to do it, does it? It's
It doesn't make it right, David, either.
No.
Just because it's happening all over the place, it does not make it right. And you do wonder what goes in people's heads at times. I listened to the Middlesex cricket chairman yesterday. I don't know if you saw it on the news, and coming out with stuff like he came out with, I'm thinking, my God, you're in front of a parliamentary committee. What are you saying? You know, you've got to switch on to the modern world. Yeah,
you're right. You have. Anyway, to go back to the positives, obviously we've got an extra 400 tickets. So as well,
David, well, we haven't got any positives this week. We're all clear.
Very good. Yeah, very good. So yeah, we've got extra tickets, and obviously this is coming out a little bit earlier, so you've got a chance to listen to this and go. If you haven't got a ticket, this is only me personally, but obviously we'll come to Accrington and the preview in a minute. But I don't think I've ever come out of there not wet, because it just every time we go, I remember we beat them early on in September in about 2017-18, and it still rained.
Yeah, it did. You're right. Yeah, we've had some good days there, and we've got some not so enjoyable days there, should I say? And you know, let's continue where we are. And you know, who knows what's going to come out of it? It'd be great to get something there. It really would.
Have you got any other news for us? Obviously, have we continued with the work behind the Barticard stand, or?
That is the top of my list here, David. To be honest, yeah, the roof work's ongoing. It should be completed I'm hoping within a week or two. There have been a couple of technical difficulties along the way. It hasn't been dead simple, but we're getting to the end of it now, thank goodness. And you know, it's only right that supporters are sheltered from poor weather, and you know the whole facility in that area now has improved last year from another bar to serving chips. So you know, things are improving.
Chairman, I've got one for you.
Go on.
Wembley photos around the ground. There's a lot of the 2007, 2008 one, isn't there? If that was the year, but there's not one of last year's. Is there any chance we can get something along those lines?
Absolutely. It has been mentioned, Aaron. It has been mentioned. I think you're right. You know, we look, for a long time, the Globe Arena, as it was a very sterile atmosphere. It wasn't. You could have walked into it, and apart from the green stuff out there, you wouldn't know you were in a football stadium. Yeah. And we have tried to change that over the last maybe three years or so. JB's bar now has got stuff up, but I'm with you 100% that we should recognise this. It was a massive achievement, and let's get something done. 100% with you.
Good stuff.
So we'll now move on, and if you've got nothing else, Rod, no?
We are making massive improvements to the online shop. That's been tested over the next few weeks, and then when that goes live, I think you'll see a massive difference there. Good.
I think that's. I think we said last week when Charlie was on, I was like, yeah, that does need doing, because it was pretty clunky.
Yeah.
So moving on, Accrington away on Saturday. It's always, because we're so close, and because we've played each other in the Northern Premier League and then in the Conference and then in League Two. The thing that there's 2 or 3 Aki fans who they love to try and dig at us by saying, "Oh yeah, but we because they won the Conference and they won League Two," and they're digging at us somehow, saying, "Oh no, we're better than you because we won it and you didn't."
You never won at Wembley. You never won at Wembley, David.
Every answer I put is like, yeah, that's right. You've got 3 promotions and you've won all 3 times, but we haven't. But we've been to Wembley 3 times and we're unbeaten.
It's interesting, isn't it? That what you were saying with Aaron before about winning the league and Derek saying, you know, we can do this. When we were going into April last year, I just got that feeling we're going to do it. We are going to do it. But when you look back, would you swap that for the day that we had? You know, from a player's perspective, would you swap it?
No,
You
no
can't
chance.
beat. You can't beat promotion. In that setting, in that way, it's magical.
No,
You're
definitely.
right. Yeah, you're right. I couldn't argue with that. But anyway, so moving on, our old rivals in this will be the fifth different division because we played them in the combination. So, from that point of view, we've got a long history. Unfortunately, while John Coleman's been in charge, we've not really got a good record against him, have we, Joel?
No, it's been the tricky, they've been the tricky rival to have because they've also been a bogey team, which is, exactly what you don't want. It's nice for like Southend to have us as a bogey team because we're not a geographical rival. But anyway, it's been a difficult one. But I think in the last couple of years, like there was that win coming back from behind. I think Cole Stockton getting Marquis sent off, which is fun. I think Aaron scored the winner in our first ever EFL win over Accrington, which I believe might have
I remember that, yeah, 2015-16, was it?
I think so, yeah. Late run of the box, side foot, Aaron Wildig special, I think.
Yeah,
but
Devitt assist, if I remember.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Lovely stuff, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to. Obviously, it's an interesting ground to go to without a roof. So I'm just going to be praying that it doesn't rain, although it usually does, and I usually get you get soaked, but that's just part of it. But hopefully, new league. I think we played really, really well against them last time. We just kind of had a bit of a mad 5 minutes that let them back into the game. We get back, looked like we might have been one that we might have been able to go on and win, and then obviously slightly harsh red card on half time, and then. But even then, it was a brilliant second half performance to come back. So
it was really strange that game because Accrington, because of who they had up front at the time, they actually went fairly direct that day. And then as soon as we had a man sent off, Shane McCartan and the rest of them wanted us to football us to death and kept pulling wide, and they never got the ball in the box.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling that I think when the opposition goes down to 10, I think there is a bit of a thought in your head that is, oh, you know what, lads, let's just keep the ball moving, and eventually they'll tire and a gap will appear. But that didn't. But then you've got to have a little bit of urgency about yourself, and Accrington didn't really, and they didn't probably take advantage as well as they could have done against us having 10 men. Obviously, they get the goal, but they're not really punishing us for having 10 men, and then obviously Toombs does a little bit of pressing high up the pitch. Somebody shanks a pass back, and then Cole's in, and it was a really enjoyable moment. But yeah, hopefully there isn't going to be not for us. There isn't going to be a red card, and we'll be able to take all 3 points because we're on a good little run of form. Could go out of the relegation zone if results go our way as well. So big game like they all are, really, I suppose.
Going back to that game, Aaron, I know the gaffer's. He's quite positive in his outlook, isn't he? And when we got that man sent off, I know, quite early on in the second half, he deliberately kept us as 4-3-2, and he did keep 2 up front that day, if you remember. And it was, credit to him that we did get a point in the end. And is he always that positive? Is he always want to be on the front foot?
Yeah, I think he's always looking to affect the game from the touchline. I think. We've seen a few games this year. I think, what was the other game? Was it Sheffield Wednesday when we were probably looking like we were going to lose the game for 55 minutes, and then he changed, I think, to a back 3, and we scored, and we were quite comfortable for the last 30. So no, I think he's always looking to affect the game from the touchline, and I think that's a sign of a good manager.
Yeah, very much so. And your history against Accrington, you've popped one in now and again. Obviously, it'll be a great atmosphere with us taking well over 1,000 fans there. Just as a matter of interest, they bought 573 to us, so we're easily outclassing them in the amount we're taking. Perhaps it's the novelty, I don't know, but I needed to get that in just in case, because obviously, But again, Accrington have been quite direct. Kobe Bishop has been a threat all season for them up front. They've lost their other best man though, because obviously he disappeared off for big money and different climbs, but it's always a tricky game, isn't it?
No, definitely. I think they've got some big lads in the middle of the pitch and whatnot. They're always a pretty physical unit, and then you've got McConville and obviously Jono, who put balls in the box for Bishop. So Be a tough game. It's always a tough place to go. I don't think their pitch is what it used to be, because I think it's top state of the art now, isn't it? So, but no, hopefully the manager picks me, and if he does, hopefully I can nick a goal, because over the years I've seemed to have a bit of a habit of nicking goals in so-called derbies, Accrington, Carlisle, Barrow. I've seemed to always nick a goal in those sort of games. So hopefully, touch wood, another one Saturday, be nice.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, got to get picked first, so that's the first.
Well, the good thing is, we said to Jonah last week, you're going to score, and he did. And he had the game. Right. He had one of his best games in a Morecambe shirt. So let's be positive and say exactly the same.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, you're going to get a start, and you're going to get. I mean, if we nicked it 1-0 and you scored it, then obviously we can take all the credit next week.
Yeah, I'll give you the credit for that if that's the case. I'll have to come on every week if you can predict that. I'll come on every week.
I might hold you to that. What are your thoughts on that, Rod? Obviously, like you said, we had some great games over the years. Just for Joel's information, I've actually got some seats in that little new stand they've built, because I just know it's going to rain. But anyway, what about you, Rod?
Yeah, they made some big improvements at the the Crown Ground, the Wham Stadium. They're always interesting contests, aren't they? You've got Coley there, he'll always be a hero at Morecambe as a player. He was a tremendous goal scorer for us for a number of years in really halcyon times in the through the Northern Premier into the conference. So. And it's an interesting touchline pairing, isn't it? Him and Jimmy Bell. You know, they're not sort of shrinking violets, are they? So it's always interesting down that touchline in that technical area. Looking forward to it. You know, it's a local derby. It's highly charged. They're not in a bad position. Who knows what they could do this year? We do need the points. There's some really encouraging signs, and with great support there, you know, why not? I think we're more than capable. So, yeah, looking forward to Saturday.
And take your raincoat.
Absolutely.
So we'll wrap up now, but we'll come to Joel. Have we got anything on the trust front? Obviously, I think there was one place left on the coach to Aki on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, I think one's just opened up. I think there was a positive COVID test, but yeah, there is one space going. So obviously, get in touch if you are looking at. But obviously, by the time this has come out, I'm not quite sure what the availability. So take that with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I don't think there's too much more in general to go over. I think actually just tonight, I've just come from a meeting, one of our meetings with the club, and we are able to kind of feed things back to the club. So obviously, like, if you do ever want a point of contact and you see one of the trust members and the board members about, you can come and talk, and we can look to try and pass things on to the club if need be.
Good shout. Well, this has been ShrimpsNet. I've no idea what episode we're on now. We're out a little early this week because everybody was busy tomorrow night, so that's the end of this one. Thanks to Rod. Thanks to Aaron. Good luck on Saturday, and good luck on Saturday. Good luck on Saturday in the boardroom. Good luck on the terraces, Joel. I shall be waving from my seated ivory tower on Saturday. I shall be waving regally. I think we might go in the Crown for a couple of cheeky ones, because we're going to get there a bit earlier. I've never ever, in all those years of going there, nearly 30 years of going there, I've never had a seat in there, because we always get there at 2:15. So I've decided we're going for 1 o'clock. But if I'm telling you, everybody will get there for 1 o'clock and I won't get a seat. This has been ShrimpsNet. Thanks for listening or watching. We'll come back next week and talk about the fantastic away victory when Azaz nicked it in the 90th minute with a header.
Be nice.
It would. Thanks for listening. See you later.